There we are, Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. Bruce here, Stitch Shifter Designs. Probably hear a lot of hammering in the background. Construction next door. So today, I figured I'd do some content with some socially redeeming value and a little kind of how-to dealio there. So how do you get these nice top stitched round edges and corners with everything where it's pretty straight and even? So that's our target, that's our goal, that's what we want to make. And the way you start out is you get your cushion like this and you figure out what size you want it. You trace it onto your material. This stuff is a little heavier, a little thicker than my standard stuff. This customer supplied this, so that's what he wants, that's what he gets. But it's a little stiffer, and when you do corners like this, you can see how this little wrinkled up edge is in there. You gotta get more material in or take some out to get a nice corner where it's not too small on the bottom or whatever. So the way we do that, let me bring this camera a little closer. All right, this is going to be a little harder to set up than I thought, but so here's the cushion piece that I want to sew. Here's the edge that's got to go on it, and of course you put those face to face, so they're, and I stapled that to hold it where we want to start. Now the thing on these corners is you want to have enough material, so I put little slits in here, but that's not so that it'll stretch out and splay out like that. You actually want to pack your corner in there and make sure that you've got enough material. You don't want to make it small like this. You want to make it like way out to the edge. So you want to make sure those little slits don't open up. You want to push them together and actually have more material in the corner than you would, and especially if you pull on this while you're sewing around here. So let me get the camera set up if I can. All right, that's not going to work like that. It's gonna be better like that. So, all right, it's going to be a little harder for me to see, but the camera can see good. Okay, so now one of the things you want to do, especially if you're doing your top stitch, is check your bobbin. Make sure you've got some bobbin thread in there. So let's, where are we at here? Spin this thing around. Make sure. There's not a lot in there. All right, let's change that out. I probably have enough to make it around, but I don't know, maybe not. So let's grab a full bobbin here. Wow, I don't think I've sewn without my top light on in years. Alright, let's get a thread. Where are we at here? What's going on? Okay, there it is. Get our bobbin thread pulled up. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going to get our edge on there. And we're going to come in here, and you always want to do a little lock stitch on the end of your stuff. So I try to leave about 1/8 of an inch over here on the outside of the presser foot. If you could see that, it would look something like this. Just a little 1/8 of an inch there or so. So I'll just run down. It would be better if the camera was over here, but I can't do that. It's too hard to set. It's hard enough to get it set up over here. So keep a nice little 1/8 in, or about maybe 1/4. I don't know. It's just about that much. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in here. We're going to go back, lock that in. Just a couple stitches. Don't go crazy with it. You don't got to go back, and you're not doing a bar tack there. You're just, all right. So now when we start getting out here to where it curves, I want to make sure I get this pushed this way. I'm pushing all this edge in there. I want to get the most edge in there I can. And it's actually going to try to wrinkle up on this side. You're trying to get enough material jammed in there so that it's actually kind of crowding on the inside there and trying to wrinkle up on you. So push, push, push. Maintain your edge there. Now it will spread a little bit, but you just want to, whoops, I'm kind of getting off the edge here. Got to watch that. There we go. All right. So I got around the corner there. Kind of looked like I never did that before, but all right. So it's got a little spread there, but I tried to keep it down to a minimum, and it's a little, I can tell there's a little extra there, so that's going to work out pretty good. So now we're going to go down to our other, try to keep that as straight as you can. And we're going to go down to our corner down here. And again, we're trying to push this into the corner, not stretch around there and tighten it out too much. We want to have as much packed in there as we can. Now this is a little bit shorter or a little bit bigger radius than on the other corner, so it's a little more forgiving. The tighter your corner, the harder it is to get it really smooth and clean. So, oh, I didn't even split this. Well, you kind of don't need to. You just want to make sure you got that really pushed in there. Don't let it all right, now we're back on the straightaway again. This is down the front of the cushion, or the top edge. Wait, that'd be the top edge? Yeah, this would be the top edge of the back cushion, I believe. Sometimes it's good to know where your cushion is. So if you make a mistake and you know that, oh, well, it's down here on the bottom edge, I can get away with that. Or I can just go cover that up really easy rather than on the top. This is a pretty important kind of edge here. You're going to want this one a little bit on the straight side. Nice and even, especially with your top stitch. Probably got a 1/4 inch in there, but all right. Now this one, I did have a couple slits like this on the other side, but again, you don't want this to, you don't want these to open up on the corner. You want them to be nice and tight. So the other thing you can do is try to stretch your bottom, but again, this is pretty heavy material. It doesn't have as much stretch as the other stuff I use, so it's kind of hard to stretch this into the presser foot. So it doesn't pack very well either. So, but I'm going to just try to get that pushed in there, and you got to watch your all right, that wasn't too bad, I guess. That up in there because you want that extra little bit in there. That's going to fold over the outside edge of your corner. If you got that really tight, it doesn't want to, it doesn't help the top or the edge. All right, let me finish this up. And all right, now the other thing is, shut that off. The other thing is when you go back and you fold this down, you're going to want to turn your corner out and even this up on the outside. So that's a pretty good looking little edge there. If you can get it right like that, get a little crinkle there, but the crinkle is because you got too much material on the top piece. When you fold that down over to do your top stitch, you're going to have a little extra material on this inside edge. So what you need to do is go and cut some little V's out of there, or just try to nip most of that all the way off and leave very little on the inside to fold back. And that way it'll be a lot smoother going around that edge there. You fold that down the right way. So that's the way you want it. You get it all nice and even when you do your top stitch. So your other corner, same, a little bit bigger corner. You won't have as much crowding on that top piece when it folds over. So you'll be all right. Now I got a kind of a wide bite on there, so that is going to want to bunch up. See how that kind of wants to make a squarish corner, wants to put a little thing. It's because you got too much material on the inside there. So we won't have to take as much out of this one, but we'll just come through like that, like that. It's easier to do this when I'm not trying to face it at the camera. If I'm just running through here, it's a little easier. Alright, and good. So now we got a lot less material in there to fold over. Yeah. You fold it the right way. There we go. See, it's a lot smoother around there. And when you stretch it out a little bit and pull it, there you go. That'll make a nice edge. But you gotta put that under the presser foot like that too. So go ahead and straighten out all these edges, trim all this inside stuff off of here. All right, there's a little neater trim there, and fold that around like that. And pull it nice and straight, and that'll be pretty good. All right, we get this last one set up. All right, that might help. I got the camera light on. Move the camera. Wait, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in here now with the camera on top of it. All right, so what you want to do is you want to pull this and get this as even and straight and pretty as you can. And you have to thread this under, obviously, wait, make sure you do it the right way. Don't do it backwards. And I've done that before. I did a cushion and I had the top stitch on the wrong side instead of on the outside edge. It was on the inner panel. So I didn't say anything. I don't think the customer ever noticed. It's kind of hard to pick out on a big job, but, and I don't think it was on a super obvious cushion. It was like down on a little side piece, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but definitely watch what you're doing. All right, better to check twice and sew once. All right, now I'm gonna, and I know I got a full bobbin in there, and you really want to make sure you've got a full bobbin when you're doing a top stitch. So what you're doing on what I do on my top stitch is I try to run the thread, the folded edge, right in the middle of this edge of the presser foot. So I try to keep that in the center to slightly outside. I don't want to go too tight. All right, so I think I did a little lock stitch there. Hopefully, I think I did. All right, and we got a dark gray mil spec top thread, military surplus thread. I've used this for years. And you gotta try to keep this stretched out good on your corner without pulling so hard that you're showing the threads. And you got to kind of keep it even with your finger as it's going under so that you don't go over a wrinkle or a kink. And I think that went pretty well. All right, I got all this bunched up against my camera, and so I'm keeping that sewn stitch, stitch right in the middle. Focus there, focus. So I keep it right in the center of that. Here, we'll get extra fancy. See if I can mess this up with my fancy camera skills. All right, that's all I'm gonna. So that's how I line up my edge. And you want to pull this flat, get it all flat and smooth, and hold it kind of even as it's going in, and then check your backside, make sure it's all right. So that looks pretty good over there. I think we'll be all right. Now we've only got 3 more corners to go. That's just one corner. All right, so you got to full flatten, make everything nice and straight and even. You don't want to pull so hard that you're showing thread in here. You want to keep it kind of even, and you're watching your spacing there and how even you have it, nice and. So you want that all nice and straight back there. All right, coming up to a corner here, we want to, again, keep it flat and smooth and spaced over properly. Get this folded over there. Just making sure everything is nice and flat as the presser foot comes over it. And doing this without a walking foot machine, which is what I'm using here, it's a little more difficult. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying it's harder. Well, at least it would be for me. I'm kind of used to using the Consew 206 RB1. It's an oldie but a goodie. Made in Japan. Oops, what happened? I don't know, flash is disabled. Oh, probably used too much battery or something there. I can't tell. All right, let me hurry up. It's hard enough to sew this as it is. If you're trying to make a video of it, it's a little added little layer of concentration. You gotta. Oh, let me pause it. Yeah, just moving the camera back so I could get my arm over here makes it a lot easier. Alright, gotta get this. But you don't want to over torque anything. Get that nice and flat. Alright, get that flat and even. Yeah, so this is what I do for a hobby. Doing these boat seats for a buddy of mine. He was doing it himself, but he got busy with some other stuff, so asked me if I would help him finish these 4 cushions. I said, yeah, it'll keep me busy for a couple days here. Alright, and we'll come in, put a little lock stitch on the end, not very much. Try to get it over off the edge, so we're going to sew over that anyways. come in here and get our threads, shut off that machine. I do not have a servo motor. I have the old-fashioned original style motor on there. So that's why it makes so much noise. It's a clutch motor. So there you go. That's how your, can we see it? There you go. So there's our top stitch going around, fold that out. Oh, nice and smooth, just the way you want it. Pull it nice and flat. There. Like they say, if the women can't find you handsome, at least they can find you handy. And there's our last one, or our first one. Pretty straight, looks nice and even all the way. Very good. Cut.